remember a photograph that I saw right at the end of the 2015 World Cup. The game against Bangladesh has just been lost and England are coming off, and there's a photograph, and since you mentioned Owen Morgan's in that photograph, and you will never see a more downcast group of cricketers. What changed? Because England backed Morgan, which I thought was an interesting choice, because you normally tend to sack people wholesale after a campaign like that. But what changed? Because one of the things I remembered when I saw England play Bangladesh that day, I've never seen Bangladesh start favourites against England in away conditions, but England were batting like they were in a rickshaw, in a tuk-tuk, on an expressway. Everyone's driving on the expressway. England was still there.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say they were in a rickshaw, to be honest. I thought they were walking. Well, if you actually look at the strategy leading into that 2015, the two new white balls came into play just before that. And most teams around the world looked at those two new white balls and thought, two hard balls, attack.
No reverse.
Correct. Just attack, attack, attack. That ball's going to stay harder for longer. Yeah, it might swing for a couple of overs, but you play more aggressively. England went the opposite. They thought, two new white balls, you need test match openers to try and see off that new white ball and then capitalise towards the end of an innings. The old school mentality. You know, the selection going into that World Cup, I'll mention if you know, Adil Rashid was around the time, didn't get picked. Ben Stokes, best all-rounder in the world now. Of course, he wasn't playing as well as he is now then, but he wasn't in the party. He had players like Gary Balance, Jonathan Trott, Ian Bell was at the top of the order. So it was very much a traditional, old school style of one-day cricket that England were playing. And you know, I think many around the England team and who were talking about the team were frustrated because we could see that the Aussies, New Zealand, particularly New Zealand, who had taken their one-day game to a different level under the leadership of Brendan McCullum, were playing this brave, fearless approach. And in a funny way, I look back at the 2015 World Cup, it's probably the best thing that happened to English one-day team. But it happened in my time and we didn't learn from it. And finally, I think the ECB and particularly when Andrew Strauss got the role, I think he thought, you know, enough's enough. You know, we do have to change. We have to pick more of a white ball specialist team. You look at the England one-day team now, there's a number of the test players, but there's also quite a few that are just white ball specialist players. They have an eye that they would like to play in the test arena. You know, Jason Roy, Alex Hales would like to play in the test arena. Adil Rashid has played a few test matches, but they're more geared towards white ball cricket. You know, their focus is these T20 leagues around the world. Can they get a gig at the IPL? Can they get a gig at the Big Bash? And I think it's worked wonders for the England team. I think the strategic way that they play, the strategic thought process around the team now in terms of playing white ball cricket is one that's up with the rest and the best in the world. And I think because of that approach, we've seen in 2 years that we've always had the talent.
Yes.
We've always had the players. We've just never had, until now, the strategic kind of backing of the whole group. But also the central contract system was always geared towards test match players.
Yes.
You only got the badge really, and you only got looked at in a positive sense if you were a test player. Yeah. Whereas now it's very equal. I would say sometimes, you know, you walk down the streets and the kids are looking at the white ball players and the guys that can whack it out the ground, and understandably, in a more positive sense. And you look at Alistair Cook, 11,000 test match runs, been incredible for English cricket, little flicks off the hip, the cut shot and the pull shot. But if you ask the majority of juniors playing cricket in this country, who do they want to be? They all say Joe Root, Joss Buttler, Ben Stokes, those that can play aggressively.
This being the home of Test cricket and being a very proud home of Test cricket in England, did that almost start to go against them in contemporary cricket? And is this new fandom for the limited overs players now breeding a new generation of players who will be ready?
Yeah, I think for a long period in English one-day cricket, we struggled because the wickets that we played on when we came back home were very much geared towards the old school way. You know, it was swinging around, nibbling. You know, you do have to bat a bit of time. You couldn't just go out swinging because the ball would nibble around. You'd be 30 for 5 if you played that way. And we won quite a lot of games in English conditions. But the rest of the world were playing on flat wickets. The ball's not swinging. The ball's flying to all parts. 300 became, you know, a par score for the majority of teams around the world, where we were winning games getting 250, 260 in English conditions. So we were gearing our game towards playing that old traditional way. And you know, again, the change happened 2 or 3 years ago. Produce flat wickets, you know, make sure that the boundaries are hittable. Outfields were quick. 300 after the 2015 World Cup became an absolute norm.
21 out of 24 or something like that?
Well, England batting first averaged 327 since the 2015 World Cup.
Is it just the pitches? or is it the mindset that's
Our
creating
mindset,
this 320?
I think you put it all into a bowl, and that's what's coming out. I think the pitches are a little bit flatter, the balls aren't swinging as much. I think the Kookaburra ball don't have as much of a prominent seam like the old white Duke ball. But it's mindset. Players go out now with a freedom and